starting this week off back here at Mariners Elementary, subbing 6th grade today, here at room 22, which is my number because I was born on the 22nd. Excited to be here again. Well, so far so great. They're in PE now, in the music room. It's a rainy day, so they just had to make do. And 10 years ago today was 12-12-12, so I just couldn't help but talk about that. And I remember where I was in the library at Newport Harbor High School, and I even written about this in my book explicitly. In fact, just a little mathematical data, I presume. And the PE coach is actually the father of a person that I student taught last year at Ensign, and I also know his brother too. It's also very interesting. I ran into the assistant principal of Davis Elementary here, so I guess he has an office here, so it's good to see each other again. And that was quite melodious. While they were at PE in the music room, there's an all-call saying for the 6th graders to go to the NPR because I believe the 4th graders were singing, and again, it was quite melodious. I just had to rush over there and escort them over there, and then they went back. It wasn't in the subplans. The teacher, I believe, forgot to put that in there, but everything was fine. Afterward, I got to teach a math lesson, and it was all about percentages, like 152% of 80 or 44% of 20 and such, so that was fun. And then I got to do some rope magic, I guess so. And while everyone was getting in and seated, I was wearing the Santa springy hat from Whoville or wherever, and I kept on saying, I think my head is spinning today, I'm not sure what it is. Well, so far so good. It's lunchtime and it's also a rainy day schedule. It was thundering and pouring and lightning very, very hard last night around like 4 or 5 in the morning, so that kind of was around the time I got up. The second part of math went well, and English language arts, the Wi-Fi is kind of bit down and there was some problem with one of the ELA assignments, but I did get to teach them a couple of math shortcut tricks. And today went well. It was a kind and respectful yet loquacious class, and it was a pleasure to serve. They really liked all the tricks and the juggling and such, also as their rewards, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. It's December 13th, and right here I'm at Paularino Elementary substituting for another 6th grade class, but not only is it the first time that I'm here, but this is the school that I went to for 3 years, from kindergarten to 2nd grade. So I'm coming in probably knowing not really anybody, possibly one person I haven't seen in 5 years, but I'm coming here with thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of memories here. I remember all the performances in the NPR and all the events, the jogathons out in the field. I remember so much here. My kindergarten class is still here. My 1st and 2nd grade classroom, they tore down the building and part of the jungle gym, but again, I'll never forget the school. I'm excited to serve here. So full circle. So I definitely remember this area from September 17th, 2001 when the library opened. I remember those giant scissors. The computer lab was down there. I also remember that bike rack. So this was the place where we played at after we were dropped off from the bus, but it was all blacktop back then, and again those portables weren't there, it was a building. And that's where my 1st and 2nd grade classroom was. And this is also the place where we waited for the bus and waited for the bus to take us on field trips. This was the spot where we all lined up for class, and the jungle gym's new back there, which I already knew was new. So far so great. It's lunchtime and already I'm reliving quite some memories. I, during recess, went over to my kindergartner room while the door was closed, but I got to speak with the teacher outside saying that this was my classroom and such, and she said, well, this room is now like the preschool room and such, and I said, well, I had kindergarten in that room. And then went here for 1st and 2nd grade in the same area, just on the other side. Even though they tore down the building and put up these portables, I could still tell that I was over in that direction, I believe room 8. So just a lot of memories. And then I was walking them over to the cafeteria / NPR, and I was just reflecting like 20 years ago 20 years ago, my teacher led me, or our teachers led us to that same cafeteria, and I walked inside the cafeteria. Now, I visited here in January 2017 just for a visit, but it was the first time I was in there in like 5.5 years. And then, of course, I did a lot of musicals there. I watched a lot of performances, a lot of guest speakers, sing-alongs, awards that we got. I got a few bumper stickers in that NPR. So right before lunch, I got to teach a math lesson all about polyhedra, so basically surface area and volume, and calculating both, and then finding out which of the three would be more advantageous volume-wise and surface area-wise, like which one needs more cardboard versus less cardboard, and everything. So a lot of fun stuff. So much fun that I lost track of time, and students started to say, oh, it's lunchtime now. It's like, okay. Well, I mean, that didn't happen while I was teaching. I was helping a student back there, and everyone else were doing their work. Well, so far so great and memorable. I can't wait to see what the rest of the day will bring. So the day went phenomenal. All the students were nice. They all liked the tricks and everything, the juggling, and I just really wish I could reflect on more memories, but as a substitute teacher, I can't film anywhere I'd like to, so and that's perfectly okay, but I am able to film at certain places. But today is really one for the books. And right adjacent to the school is a park, which I've been to before. We actually had like the last day of school celebration back in the day, which I will never forget either. And I'm back here at Paularino Elementary, December 14th, 2022, subbing for 5th grade today. And something I forgot to mention yesterday is that I mentioned Paularino 5 times in my book, Juggling the Issues Living with Asperger's Syndrome. And not only that, but a person yesterday in the 6th grade class that subbed for knew that I was an author, so I thought that was neat. And so it's time to relive some more memories today. I definitely remember playing in this field back there for 3 years, the baseball. I remember Santa landing on a helicopter a few times back there, back in 2001 and 2002. And once again, a lot of memories here at the school. And here inside this classroom, room 6. The bus has arrived through that window behind me, so I just looked out, and just brings back so much memories, because that was the same exact spot that I was let out when I was in 1st and 2nd grade, maybe kindergarten too. I know I took the bus 1st and 2nd grade for sure. Well, I'm having quite a wild day, a very wild day, but at the same time I'm feeling very content inside and almost like joy. And it's hard to explain, so let me try to explain it. Last night when I accepted this job on Frontline, in the subnotes, it kind of gave a warning about a student, like if the student goes outside of the class, call the office immediately. And that kind of gave me a red flag, but I decided to accept the position anyway. And then when I came here, I'm like, okay, which line, like after the bell rang, which line was this class? And I went to one line and I asked, so who's your teacher? And he said a teacher's name, and I said, okay, I'm looking for this teacher. And that's when he started like saying, oh no, his eyes bugged out, and I think he covered his face, and he's like, oh no. So that gave me another red flag about what I am to expect. So I get the class in here, and again, it is wild trying to get them to like stop talking and listen, and having them stop yelling out and dancing around the room and such. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about the students, and that's kind of part of what I'm wanting to try to articulate, that the students aren't necessarily disrespectful in that they're hurtful or whatnot. I believe that they're great students. Like, I believe everybody are great students. They aren't like rude to me per se. They aren't like rude to each other in terms of being hurtful, but they just need more discipline and such. And a lot of students here are disciplined. They're listening. A couple of them are helping me out and such. And a lot of them, like, they just need that discipline to just quiet down sometimes and just listen to the teacher and listen to instruction and remain seated and such. So I've been working with that all day. However, there was a lockdown drill. Now, I knew that there was a lockdown drill because I just happened to look at it yesterday, because I looked in the sub folder. I was looking in the section where there's like the fire drill, earthquake drill, and all that. I noticed that there's a lockdown drill December 14th. I'm like, oh, that's tomorrow. And so here I am. So coming in here, I knew that there's a lockdown drill. It was chaotic. Some students were on task. Some students were yelling and talking. I'm just trying to calm them down, saying like, in a real situation, you cannot be doing this. You have to be silent. We tried to have the lockdown drill, and all of a sudden there were knocks on the door, and I look out the window and some of the doors were open and such, and admin were coming to the door, I did not hear the evacuation call. So they went on the intercom and say, okay, now it's time to evacuate. I didn't hear that. Everybody was shouting and talking, and I'm trying to calm them down. And next thing I know, we are the last class to go out into the field. So we had like 2 people come here, and we evacuated to the field. I gave them the roll call number and such, and like there was like 24 on the roster, 3 were absent, so there should be 21. There were 21. And I held up the green sign, and the principal goes, okay, we are all clear, and so everyone returned to their class. So the principal came in, gave them a much needed lecture, said that this was the last class that was out into the field, and that she had to hold everyone out into the field just to ensure that we're safe and that we got out there safely, and that their recess was now taken, and instead she came back in and they had to write 2 paragraphs. And the principal was a bit concerned that they treated a guest teacher or a substitute teacher in this way, and that I just couldn't hear the intercom. That's how loud it was and such. So again, I believe in the potential of all of these students. I believe that they're good students, just not disciplined yet, but I think like inside their heart they're good. It's hard to explain. And during the math lessons, I got to teach another math lesson all about rounding numbers and everything, 3 pages. And I said, listen, I'm going to give you guys 3 warnings, and you have to be silent and listening. And I said I could show a magic trick if you earn it, if you want to see it. Everyone wanted to see it. I only had to give 2 warnings, and afterward I got to show them a little magic trick. A few students had to go somewhere, and then they're coming back after lunch, and they really wanted to see the magic trick, so I just did like a little rope magic trick for everybody else. The card trick, which is what I told them I would show them, will be after lunch. Still, they have to earn it if they come here in one piece and come inside, be seated without talking. Then I could show the card trick, and that's the purpose of incentives. And usually, like, they're all eager, wanting to watch it, and I told them that, and I reminded them that of the magic tricks, and they were like dead silent during the math lesson. So currently it's lunchtime, and I just met the principal, like actually got to meet her instead of having her come into my class to give a lecture to students and such. I got to introduce myself, and she said something like, well, welcome. And I said, well, this is probably my 300th time here. I really don't know the number. It's probably 500 or I don't know. But I said I was a student here for 3 years. I showed her a bunch of pictures when I was like in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade here and such, and she was blown away, and she's like, well, welcome back. And then I said, well, if you have about 10 seconds, I do want to introduce myself, but also I just want to express my willingness to volunteer and be like a speaker / juggler at an all-school assembly. So if you have time like this academic year, I would love to volunteer. And I expressed the word volunteer. Don't need to be paid, just volunteer to be here in an assembly to encourage and motivate the students, regardless if they have any disabilities or not. Regardless, you could do whatever you set your mind to do. And I have a juggling analogy for that and a couple of other analogies, and I would just love to do that. And she said yes, she'll keep me in mind as this year goes on for me to do that. And I also got to share that I'm an author to a book about autism in which I mentioned Paularino 5 times. Which reminds me, I also told her how Paularino was like back in the day. Like, there was a whole building here before there were these portables, and she didn't know that at first. I was describing how the jungle gym area used to look like too. And right before I started teaching the math lesson, I told them, I believe in you. I believe that you can do this. I know that you could do this. And just to have that pep talk in the beginning. So that wasn't like the first time today where I just got this like joyous feeling inside. Like, this is an opportunity to take a class and just try to put some light into it. I'm not saying anything against the teacher. I'm sure the teacher's doing that too, but I have this opportunity to be an additional light to these students, like an additional like source of motivation, optimism and such, and another person to just emphatically say that you could do this, you could do whatever you set your heart and mind to do. You just need to discipline yourself, and they seem to have understood. And that is a wrap. So after lunch they came back, did science for an hour, and at the very end they earned it, so I did some juggling. I'm very proud of this class. It wasn't like 100% perfect, but they were on task, hardworking, helping each other out in procedure and what to do for the science project. And by the end of the day, A lot of people thought that I was an excellent substitute teacher. They really liked that I was there, and some, or at least one, expressed sadness that the day is over and that I'm no longer the sub. So it's much appreciated. Again, I'm thankful for this opportunity, and while I was juggling, I really put down my encouragement on not giving up on your passions and what you want to do. And if anything drops in life, just pick it back up and keep going. And I believe that they got the message. So it was an excellent time being here for the second day in a row, and can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. Again, almost every time I sub, it's a day-by-day thing. Sometimes I know the night before, and other times I know the morning of. So I'll be somewhere in the district, hopefully. Also, I wore both my hats today, including this springy Whoville hat, whatever. And yesterday and today, lots of students really complimented on my hats and really enjoyed it. In fact, last night was the Royal Rangers Christmas party, and I juggled there. And long story short, I wasn't intending to juggle, but I juggled anyway. And they all liked the hats as well, and thought that they were quite some silly hats. It is December 15th, 2022, and I'm over here at California Elementary subbing 4th grade. And I actually went here for summer school in 2003, right before 3rd grade started. And also I was here last June 9th, I believe, to juggle for those 2 classes of 4th graders, those 39 students. So hopefully I will be asked back to juggle for the entire school too. Just to say, I'm filming this at lunchtime. I didn't really have time to film much this morning because there were people around and people started to come and such, and I can't film when people are in the background. But I did get to meet the principal during recess when I had recess duty, and I asked if I could speak to her later on. She said she should be available, so I'll plan to do that, and hopefully I'll be able to express my willingness to volunteer as a speaker, motivator, juggler, and such in an all-school assembly. It's lunchtime now, and so far the day is going excellent. I'm very, very thankful that I am here today. They had a post-unit assessment, a math test, today that I had to deliver. It's always 50-50 with the math. I either teach a lesson or I have to proctor a math exam, of which I cannot help. But the students were actually kind of respectful, even before and after the math exam. But let me tell you something that happened in the morning. So I'm getting ready, and 3 students walk in. I'm here reviewing the sub notes, and one of them said, "This class is really crazy," or something to the effect. And they walk on the ceilings and everything. I'm like, oh boy, thank you for the warning. And behind her, who told me that, were 2 boys. And I asked, so what are the 2 boys' names? And those were the 2 names that I just read about in the subnotes about the 2 boys to watch for. I'm like, oh boy, thanks for the warning. And she said, yeah, our class is like that. I'm like, well, thanks again. But again, I got everybody in, and I started dead silent, respectful, listening, and such. Of course, it did get a little bit rambunctious throughout the day, but it was pretty much respectful, and I think the incentives have something to do with it. Like when I said that I do magic tricks, well, it's not real magic, they're just illusions. Their mouths dropped, and maybe that may have given them extra motivation to stay on track. They really did like the magic tricks that I usually do. And they and everyone else on campus really liked my 2 Christmas hats, just like at Paularino the past 2 days. And also, something I forgot to say yesterday at Paularino, for the first time that I could recall, people started calling me Mr. K instead of Mr. Kenslow. I tell them, when they ask me what my name is, I say, okay, it's Ken Slow. Not Ken Fast, but Ken Slow. And I got the widest smile and giggles after that, but anyway. But I'm reminded of that because today someone asked me if they could just call me Mr. K, and I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. This was also the school to one of the students at Ensign Intermediate School, who also goes to the youth group that I'm a youth minister intern at. In fact, I saw him yesterday along with everybody else, because yesterday was my first day back because I no longer have Vanguard on Wednesday nights, so I'm back to interning at youth. And I told him that I'm subbing at California Elementary, and he said, oh, that's where I go there, and my sister goes there, so small world. And then the teacher who helped me out this morning, who gave me the sub notes from this teacher and kind of gave me a few pointers, was actually his former teacher. While I was out at recess earlier, a student ran up to me and said, hey, you subbed for my brother over at T-Winkle. So again, T-Winkle is right next door to California Elementary, and she said that she watched the video that I made. So I hope to sub at T-Winkle Middle School again, as well as the school California Elementary. And again, I wish to go back to both schools, in fact every school in the district and in the county, and just be a juggler, speaker, motivator, and such. That's kind of at my heart, and to encourage all tens of thousands of students that they have a purpose and to not give up on their passions. But something that was a first today was I gave a grammar lesson, a English language arts grammar lesson for like the first time I could recall, because I've usually done math lessons. Now I've done a language arts lesson. When I was a student, that was my worst subject for quite a few reasons, but I think I did well, and it was like silent the entire time, except for the times when the students raised their hand to read and also raised their hand to correct the spelling and the punctuation, because it was like an error analysis. It was 2 paragraphs filled with errors and such, and so I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this sentence? Is there anything else wrong with this sentence? Is there anything wrong with this sentence? So it was very good. I jumped out of my comfort zone once again and did a grammar lesson. It's kind of a bit ironic that I'm an author and I love creative writing, but at the same time, I always hated reading. Just read my book. In the chapter, I think I titled it The Struggles of Reading and Test Taking. So yeah, quite ironic. Additionally, I got a couple of cards from a few students today. One says Merry Christmas with drawings of 2 reindeer, a sticker that says great job, and on one side it says you're a good teacher, and the other side says you are a magician, and the best attempt of spelling magician. And I really appreciate that. And a couple of other students gave me another paper with the drawing. Before this, they were asking, okay, what's my favorite animal? And I'm like, well, how about an orangutan? Because when I was in elementary school, the orangutan was my favorite animal. They're asking me, so like, what do I love to do? Or something like that. I'm like, well, being a substitute teacher currently. And they're like, well, what else do you like to do in the whole world? And I'm like, math. So next to the orangutan, they put I want to be a teacher, and also equations, like basic multiplication equations and such, and that's precisely who I want to be, a math teacher. Also, while I was at Paularino substituting, a person just gave me this neat holographic ruler right here. And that's it. Today was an excellent day, very phenomenal. I got to juggle at the end and also give my analogy about not giving up on what you want to do in life. If anything drops, just pick it up, keep on going. So again, I feel very fortunate to have been here. The class was very nice. Yes, it got a bit loquacious throughout the day, but overall they're very nice. And ever since the very beginning of the day, I just felt very content, very passionate. I just felt this overjoy of passion, like this is where I belong today, and that all the students are nice and respectful. And one person just came in to retrieve his soccer ball that he forgot and just said one more time that my magic tricks were nice or something like that. So very appreciative. It just takes a lot of practice. Again, they're just illusions, not real magic. So I can't wait for what tomorrow's going to bring, wherever in the district I may be. It is December 16th, 2022, and I'm concluding this week at Whittier Elementary, subbing for another 4th grade class. So I was in elementary schools or primary education all this week and 80% of last week, and secondary education last Monday. So it's just been a joy, a blast. I get to do a lot more incentives and tricks and juggling and such, so excited to be here and excited for this day. Well, I'm here in room 42, and I feel like I had a very big welcome. I went into the office as seemingly to be the only person there, but after a moment people walked in and started to remember me from when I was a sub here in the past. And then when I walked out of the office with the folder in hand, there comes the principal and the assistant principal coming forward, and they're like, hey Matthew, both of them, and they were happy to see me. And the principal then proceeded to walk me over here to show me where the classroom was. And it's also flag deck today, so I'm going to take everyone to flag deck. So just feel very welcome to be here, and I'm actually excited for the day, excited to meet the students and hopefully encourage and motivate them today and help them get through this day learning what they need to learn. And that's it. The entire day was already done, and I have to say that was huge ever since the beginning after flag deck. A lot of chatter, a lot of noise, but overall I did get the class silent, completely silent a number of times, and I gave my incentives. I gave up to 3 warnings and such, or I said that you have 3 warnings, and that usually got them running to their seats and focus and listening. I got to teach a little bit of math, and I got to give a spelling test and such, and it was good. Just I got to employ some SEL strategy, social emotional learning. I got to talk to a couple of students and speak to them, and just using positive redirection, instead of saying this, say that, and instead of treating others this way, treat them that way. So I feel fortunate to be able to have done that and spoken to them in that way. Other than that, again, the incentives kind of really got them like running to their desks and listening when I said, okay, you have like 20 seconds, 19, 18, 17. By the end, everyone was counting. And once again, I really think that the incentives have something to do with it. Like, they really wanted to see all the magic tricks and all the juggling and everything. Well, they didn't know it was juggling until the very end. Well, I think a couple people figured it out that I'm a juggler, but other than that, it was very fun. I got to use my juggling analogy about not giving up on your passions and everything. So that was another wrap to a remarkable week, and I can't wait for next week. Next week's the week before our Christmas and New Year's break, and also the 6th graders are camping, doing their science camp in the winter in the mountains. I could imagine it's probably freezing cold over there. So once again, thank you for following me in this journey, and if ever you want to do anything in life, just never give up and just keep on going. Don't let anything slow you down. Don't set your standards on other people. Base it on your own self, and you shall go far. Have an excellent day.